Hiya guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro RPG. Because at the end of another week, the end of another poll, we've got a tie. We've got a tie between virtual realities for Shadowrun and Chill. Now today we'll be covering virtual realities, so we'll be going over to the desktop in a wee second to check that out. And as usual, I'll be back at the end of the video with some other poll related stuff and some other channel related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to ask you to subscribe, like and comment below. Now the commenting below is the most important part to me, because there's so many role-playing games that viewers have introduced me to. We've had them suggested, we've put them in the poll, they've won the polls, and then I've covered them. And I've been introduced to some fantastic role-playing game over the past year or so that I've been doing this. So please go into the comments and suggest any role-playing games, supplements, adventures, anything in that kind of thing, games which you absolutely love that you think other viewers would be interested in seeing as well. Please do that, it'd be so much appreciated. We'll put them in the polls, we'll see what wins, and we'll have a look at some fantastic games which aren't in my collection. I've still got tons of stuff to cover, but these suggestions are really motivating me because I'm discovering so many great games to have a look at. I'd also like to ask you, if you'd like to support the channel, then please check out the Patreon in the description down below. The Patrons are the real lifeblood of this channel. They help support it, and I'd like to absolutely thank them from the bottom of my heart. Their efforts are so much appreciated. But if you'd like to join them and help support the channel, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like to see some Patreon exclusives, or some of the other levels of Patreon you've got, then check the Patreon out, and that's so much appreciated. But anyway, let's get on and have a look at virtual realities. So, this is Virtual Realities, which came out for Shadowrun First Edition to be detailed, by FASA, and it came out in 1991. And it's the sourcebook for the Matrix and Deckers, or if you want to call them hackers, cyberspace, whatever terms you like. But it's enhancing the core rules around hacking and breaching computer systems. Much in the same way the Grimoire enhanced Mages and Magic, and the Riggerback book enhanced riggers and vehicle combat and weapons and all that. So they are extending the main rules out in certain directions. But this is perhaps the least of those books in my opinion. Cyberspace never really caught on with my group because it is a totally sub-game. While the players are doing a bunch of stuff, the Decker is sat back at base and hacking into the computer systems, you know, hacking locks, cutting out security cameras, etc., etc., warning them of patrols. But they've not got the same danger. If everything goes wrong, the Decker is still in the computer systems, and they're facing their own threats. But it's like a sub-game, especially as time passes differently within it. Now, the Magic has astral space, which causes some of those problems, but you can still get the mage going along with you, whereas Deckers are generally expected to sit back at base. Now, the styling of it is using up-to-date 1991 level computer graphics. And these still work to a degree because you're doing all this Tron styling. Obviously, Tron had come out in, 1983, 84, and set up the neon vision of what the inside of a computer would look like, much like video games of the time. But that had carried on, and it still works to a degree, although these are obviously very basic-looking computer graphics. Your phone probably does far better quality graphics than this these days at 50 frames a second, whereas this probably took days of rendering. Anyway, going over to the back cover. Faster, meaner, smarter. Man, I hate the technology curve. It's back to the schoolboys and girls. The kid gloves are off. Fast Jack, Decker. Virtual Realities, a Shadowrun sourcebook, is the ultimate guide to decking in the Matrix. Includes new, revised and expanded rules for matrix running, cyberdeck construction and computer systems. Virtual Realities also features full color computer graphics section and a novella-length fiction piece, both set entirely in the Matrix. And you can see more of those wonderful neon-style, very primitive objects, creating what cyberspace is supposed to look like, the Matrix. Inside, the production quality is very nice. FASA definitely had it mastered. It's very clean and clear to read. Got a nice credit section, contents. But as we get into it, it does seem, nice artwork as well, it does seem to have missed what they very much built into their styling. Shadowrun sourcebooks often are in the format of books or documents downloaded off the big Shadowrunner website or database. And they will have the formatting of that as if you're accessing files. But this is before all that happens. And I really loved that styling, that you would have incoming files, and that would be the books which are just about to come out. It was a very, very interesting way of doing it. Dragged you into the universe straight away. But unfortunately, this is before that. Although, I think the Street Samurai catalogue did it to somewhat of a degree in the format of it. But we have going into a section on computer systems. So we've got system diagrams explaining how they work. And this is definitely fleshing out what's in the core rules. Giving us lots of new rules. You know, system operations, central processing units, system operations, different junctions and data stores, modules you can move through a computer system. Some very cartoony graphics as well. I do quite like the look of that monster. Something scary against Decca's silly little emoji that they use to, or silly little avatar that they use to cruise the Matrix. Got different alert statuses. We've got fleshing out of expert systems, which became something far larger later on. And then we're on to intrusion countermeasures, the different types of ice, which will burn Deckers as they go through. Again, keeping with the graphical style, but we've got lots of different programs. This fleshes out things, but is building on what we had. The major addition, I think, to this rulebook is Cyberdex. Now, this, instead of you just buying an ordinary Cyberdeck, is giving you the skills to build up other ones. Now, in a similar way that the Grimoire allowed mages to make their own spells, this is letting players take their money and convert it into enhancements for their character. So we've got lots of things you can build on it. Storage, load speed, video screens, hitcher jacks, so you can let other people view what's going on, offline storage, the case, making it how resistant to damage it is, and lots of prices and enhancements. You know, deck downtime, how long it'll take you. Really, you've got satellite uplinks, so you can hack in from anywhere. And we're into different programs. So we introduce some rules for programming on the fly, whether you can come up with a small program. We've got combat utilities, defense utilities, sensor utilities, masking utilities so you can hide yourself, programming to design a program, lots of ratings for how large and how many you can fit in, different options. We've got smart frames, so basically a small AI Decker can create to help them, much like a small spirit, as the rules brought in the Grimoire that you could summon spirits and get them to do stuff. In this we've got smart frames. We've got a far more detailed version of cyber combat, detailing what happens, you know, what happens with ice, whether you get overloaded, and we've got a fast resolution system. Then we've got matrix realities. So talking about what the systems look like, sculpted systems. Now this is where it really differs, because, as I said, most of the Matrix we say looks like a Tron type reality, neon graphics, very straight lines, like an old video game. But the point it's making is that these are virtual realities. These can look like anything. So you can go in and you can find that the inside of someone's system looks like a Roman villa from round about 0 AD. And that's what they want to look like. It's entirely possible for a 40th century armored death machine to go strolling through the primeval forest. So what you look like, what the programs look like, what the environment looks like is all up to the programmers. We've got to talk about magic. Basically, they don't mix. We've got Shadowland, the database where Shadowrunners to get contracts and where lots of the documents are downloaded from. And then we've got Fuchi, a Matrix tour, introduction of the Matrix, and a guide around their system. And this is where we get these color plates showing various renders. Now these are all very pretty for 1991, but they aren't that great these days. We can easily see how they were done. Talking about different icons, giving the imagery within the Fuji system. We've got lots of color plates here, and they're all fairly samey. Early Shadowrun books did tend to have color plates, but I thought they were far more interesting than this. I especially liked the London source book with people in cosplay playing elves and orcs, etc. Goes up to the end, summer update. We've got a list of other software that people can buy, which has different stylings. A few pages of that. And then we're into page 83. I didn't really draw attention as we were going through, but the contents page, we can see that it tells you where everything is up to page 82, and then it's just virtual realities. And we have got a whole load of book left. It's 150 something pages long. 152, I think, is the last numbered page, with some character sheets and stuff after that. Because the rest of the book is a story. Now, it's quite a good story. It's basically Halberman's babies, which we've seen in the Threats book. One of the sad things about me covering these books when they get voted on does mean that I've already covered the story when they included it in the Threats book. Much like things from Bug City are covered within that book as well. Halberman's Baby is a situation where a scientist, to get people more used to working within the Matrix, because it's a virtual reality, he's taken a bunch of babies and basically plugged them into the Matrix. So instead of learning to walk, talk, etc., they are learning to manipulate the environment around them through cyberspace. So they are very, very skilled at a very young age. And it's an interesting situation within Shadowrun to threaten players with, because basically they'll be surrounded by a bunch of 6-year-olds who are giggling and teasing them and making childish jokes, but are far more powerful than them, because they've had 6 years within the Matrix to manipulate everything. We have pages from the point of view of one of these children, what they are taught, what they experience as they go through training, and into their first few missions. There's a lot here. As it says, a novella. I'm just going to skip through them. There's very few illustrations within it. There's one. But it sort of details that out and sets up Halberstam. Sorry, not Halberman. Halberstam. And we'll finish off with a message sort of explaining it. My name is Rennie. I used to live in a house at the edge of the Matrix. And the last few pages, we've got a character sheet detailing out Cyberdeck, so a specialized one. Cyberdeck worksheets for creating your own. System data sheets. And coming this summer, Native American Nations Volume 1 of 2, a Shadowrun sourcebook, and a nice image from that book. And the finished page, which they tended to do in Shadowrun books early on. Tell you it was over, even though it was fairly obvious because you'd reached the back of the book. So, Virtual Realities fleshes out and provides some tools for deckers and for games masters for computer systems. You know, they can build their own decks, they can build their own software. And you've got the smart frames thing to allow deckers to be more effective. They can basically take little spirits along with them to do hacking alongside them. But more than half the book is a story. And if you don't want to use Halberstam's babies, or you've already got the Threats book and you're going to use them from there, which is far more useful because that includes stats, most of this book isn't that great. It's definitely the least of the core books. You know, Street Samurai Catalog was a great book with loads and loads of weapons in it, and some rules enhancements, which everybody could use. If you're a decker, you might want to get a new gun or a vehicle from that. The Rigger's Black Book, very, very similar. You know, there's loads and loads of cars and bikes and trucks and all that. Fantastic for games masters to put stuff in. But also, players can find it very useful because they want a new car. They want a cool bike for their character when they're in character creation or whatever. The Grimoire added so much to the game. Added spirits, it added physical adepts, which are core to the game these days. fantastic, fantastic additions, along with rules for making your own spells, and all of that. Introducing the very basics of insect spirits and different types of toxic shamans and all that. It really enhanced the game. But Virtual Realities does very little. It uses half of its pages for a story, which might not be that useful to you. And what is there's pretty good, but it's only really going to be good for deckers. So I find this book the least of the core books and mainly ignored. So that was Virtual Realities, and as I said, I feel that's very much the least of the core books which expanded out Shadowrun First Edition. There's so much of it which is just that story, which is an interesting story. Obviously they took it on and added to it in threats, but I just feel it's too much space in a book which is supposed to be about the decking and the matrix and that kind of thing. And Virtual Realities tied in the poll this week with 33%, tying with Chill Adventures into the Unknown. And behind them was the Reformation Coalition Equipment Guide for Traveller of the New Era on 21%, and the Adept's Way for Earthdawn on 13%. So a tie on 33, with a third of the votes going to each of those games, and a third of the votes going to the others. An interesting way of looking at it, I think. Anyway, they're all wiped out of the poll this week, and we're going back to our Retro Adventures poll. And first up, we've got Shadows of the Underworld for Shadowrun. Came out in 1996. Now, this is another one of the books with a few adventures in it. So I'm not that keen on covering too many other books like that this week, but I think it's a worthy one, especially as it's in the lead up to the election, which happened in Shadowrun, with Dunkelsinger voted in as president. So it's tying into all of that, which we've kind of covered in the past. Second up, we've got a matter of priorities for the Star Trek role-playing game from FASA in 1985. So 2 FASA games, but over a decade between them. And Star Trek adventures are always worth a look at. We've covered a few on the channel before, and they've all been absolutely great. After that, we've got Yatati Asfet, the Eye of Wicked Sight for Call of Cthulhu. Came out from Chaosium in 1996. Now, this has been in the poll a few times. Other Cthulhu adventures easily win. This one seems to struggle. Perhaps it's not being recognised, but all Cthulhu adventures are a lot of fun to look through, so it's definitely worthwhile a vote if you can want to consider it. And finally, we've got Tales from the Ether for Space 1889 from Games Designers Workshop in 1989, which I'm very much in the mood for. I'm running Space 1889 at the moment, so it'll be a lot of fun to look through how other adventures are written and cover them apart from the one I'm just running at the moment. And I think I might have a lot more insight into Space 1889 because I'm running it at the moment. Anyway, what else I'm up to? Well, over at RPG Gamer, I'm still covering the Legacy 2013 series, and I've got about 5 issues to come, so I should be finishing very, very soon. And this series has been a lot more interesting than the earlier Legacy series, following up 100 years after the movies, setting up the far future of the Star Wars universe. There's a lot of fun stuff happening in it. So if you want to check out the comics and my reviews of it, or you just want to see what I'm creating for the Star Wars D6 system based on those comics, then go over to rpggamer.org and check it out. Anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.